Welcome to episode 25 of the Self-Care 101 podcast with your host, Puja McClymont, helping people achieve their full potential with effective self-care through wellbeing coaching. Thank you so much for listening today. On this episode, I interview a lady that I am very humbled to also have the privilege of working with. Dr. Deepa Apté is a renowned Ayurvedic practitioner and MD. Her spa, Ayurveda Pura, is where she treats clients with traditional healing practices and hosts a number of Ayurvedic courses for therapists and practitioners. Ayurveda is the ancient Indian holistic medical system. It's based on achieving physical and mental harmony with nature, which has been practiced for more than 5,000 years. Ayurveda means science of life, Ayu meaning life and Veda meaning science, and was first recorded in the Vedas, the world's oldest surviving literature. Now, as an Indian, I grew up with Ayurvedic principles just being a way of life. No one ever announced that anything we were doing was Ayurvedic, but I remember seeing my dad practice yoga. Just by doing stretches, I thought nothing of it, but it was yoga. I remember my mum saying never to eat fish with dairy and how certain dishes like saag can only be made during the season that it grows. Plus, I can't tell you the number of turmeric milks that I had to drink when I was sick. Believe me, I've said it before in another podcast. Turmeric latte, turmeric milk, it's like Benylin for us. Now, as my practice has grown and developed, I've realised that without even knowing it, I had been incorporating Ayurvedic principles of balance and holistic views to my techniques, always looking to work on a client's goals by reviewing their whole life. So when I met Deepa, we chatted for hours and she endorsed to me herself that so much of what I was saying about my coaching practice was Ayurvedic. I hope this podcast enlightens you on Ayurveda, the truth about yoga, and how you can bring some of these principles into your own life. So let's get to it. I am so excited to be doing this interview finally with Dr. Deepa Apté. We met last year, right, around the summertime, sort of into autumn, and it was such an honour to meet her. And we spent a good hour, didn't we, on our first meeting, just talking about everything Ayurvedic and coaching. And it was a real moment for me when you said that, my God, so much of what you're saying is so Ayurvedic, and we were sort of laughing about it. It was wonderful. And I think a lot of our thought processes are quite similar in terms of well-being and how people can, live their lives better and through balance and all those wonderful things which you're going to talk about. And I talk about Ayurveda in some of my podcasts and in some of the work that I do with clients, but I feel that it's a lot better because I'm not a practitioner, that, somebody like yourself who does this day in, day out and has been doing it for so long can share with the listeners exactly what Ayurveda is and how, most importantly, you can incorporate it into modern living. Because I think there's a lot of misconception with Ayurveda that you have to have all these herbs and you have to be vegetarian and you have to do this and you have to do that, when actually in reality there are adjustments as part of the philosophy that you can make. So enough of me. Dr. Deepa, if you'd like to introduce yourself and then tell the listeners what Ayurveda really is.
Thanks a lot, first of all, for having me here on this podcast. As Puja was just saying, yes, I am an Ayurvedic practitioner. My background is actually in medicine. So I first qualified as a medical doctor. Then I studied Ayurveda and then I studied yoga. So there used to be a time when I used to combine all the three systems in my practice. Mm-hmm. But then ever since I moved to London, I started my own work. I have been focusing on Ayurveda and yoga. And as you rightly said, the last time that we met, and time does fly,
Doesn't it?
Quite a few months ago, when we first met and we started chatting about the kind of work that you do and what I do, It was so nice to see that a lot of things that we do are so similar. And that is how, that whole, if you want to call it, the partnership started between you and me, saying, okay, let's do things together.
Yeah.
And that is how now here we are recording our first podcast together. And today it's more about Ayurveda and probably a little bit about yoga too.
Yes.
But focusing more on Ayurveda.
Yeah.
And of course, every time I go out there, meet new people or talk about Ayurveda to people, many of them, I would say probably 95% of the people do say, oh yes, I have heard of Ayurveda, but I don't really know what it is. So in today's podcast, I'm hoping that, I'm able to give that information across to be able to make Ayurveda a bit more simple, but more importantly, practical. As, of course, Puja, as you already know, because you come from that background, but for this is for the listeners. Many of you may have heard that whenever we talk about Ayurveda, we always say Ayurveda is the ancient holistic system from India, which is approximately 3,000 or 4,000 years old. But then whenever I talk about it to people, I always say that just because we say 3,000 years old, it does not mean that 3,000 years ago, one morning, one human being woke up saying, let me create Ayurveda.
Right.
That is not what Ayurveda is. As the word itself goes, the first part of the word Ayu, meaning life, and Veda, meaning science. And hence, when put together, it's science of life or knowledge of life, wisdom of life. And hence, from that point of view, one way of looking into Ayurveda is that as long as life has been around, this particular science or system has been around. So it's not just 3,000 years old, it is much, much older than that. Because once again, what we have to remember is, now when I say life, even for me to live, I need, these so-called non-living elements, but essential elements like space or fire, water, and without these, I can't live. Right. That means these elements become a part of my life. And hence, we believe that, elements like space, air, they have been there for a very, very long time. So from that point of view, we believe that Ayurveda does not have an age, or, we can't put a time limit to it. And same thing, on the other hand, when we say that it is the ancient holistic system from India. Of course, it is an Indian system of medicine, but it doesn't mean that it is only Indians who can practice it. As the word goes, science of life. That means wherever there is life, this particular science or system exists, meaning out there in India, out here in UK. Because the way Ayurveda is, science of life, and life is around us. That means it is that nature around us. And what Ayurveda says is that whatever we are nothing but a reflection or result of that environment around us. So we're always looking into the environment on the outside and then assessing, how that may be affecting us on the inside.
That's interesting, because when you talk about environment, I use a tool in my coaching practice called the Wellbeing Wheel. And there are 12 basically areas of your life within that. So detoxing, physical, food, emotions, integrity, spirituality, and environment is one of those. And it's one of those that when I'm talking to clients, it's like, you have your own space and you've got your workplace, but if you need more, daylights, that's what sort of invigorates you, then working in a corporate office block with concrete all around you and you're literally back to back of buildings, so say somewhere like Canary Wharf, you're not stimulating your environment to suit you and your needs. And so when you're looking for a job, for instance, when I'm talking to clients, you've got to look at where that office space is and all those things. I just thought, sorry, it was just something that just sparked me when you said
absolutely correct. Because whenever I'm teaching, I'm always telling people that whenever it's cold out there, we feel cold. Yes. Whenever it's hot out there, we feel hot. It's just not a natural environment, but our own, if you want to call it, like developed environment. And the best example I can give is, let's say if you have got a group of teenagers playing out there, but they're laughing, they're having fun. You look at them, you laugh, but you feel safe. Just think, they are there. But the same group of teenagers, if they start yelling, shouting, kicking each other or anything like that, likewise, we feel a bit restless and a bit unsafe. Right. So that is how that environment always affects us.
So like when people are sort of, if they come into work and they're quite stressy or frantic and you're not, but then all of a sudden, because their energy has filled the room, I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago about energy exchange. They come in and then you absorb almost their franticness, don't you? When you're actually fine to begin with. We do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that is, and having said that, that is one thing that Ayurveda really stresses on is the environment. Wow. Environment at home, environment at the office, or even when you're going out meeting friends, all of that affects us. So one of the main principles in terms of therapy or practice in Ayurveda is just not about looking into the individual for who they are, but also assessing what the environment around them is. Wow. So based on that, then we're looking into what illnesses, conditions, or how we can correct them. So yeah. So I'm sure we could talk about environment.
Oh, we so good.
Yeah. But anyway, so that is one of the important things in Ayurveda. But then, of course, as many people may have heard, in Ayurveda, we do talk about body types or constitutions. But again, when we talk about body types, I'm sure people may have heard, there are 3 main body types. The first one is called Vata. So when we say vata, it literally means air. And hence such people, just the way air moves, such people also, they're very restless, they're active, they think a lot, likewise they're very creative. But then also to remember that, when that air becomes a bit more strong or moves a lot, that means it becomes a bit chaotic or irregular. Likewise, that means such people may also have that attitude towards, like irregular lifestyle, or their food habits or everyday routine may be a bit irregular. So that is what, a vata body type is. The second one, we say pitta. So the moment we use the term pitta, it means heat or fire. And just the way fire has got the quality of being more penetrating, more sharp, likewise such people also, they're very they're focused, they're determined, they know exactly what they want in life. But then on the other hand, of course, fire is hot. That means such people may also then have tendencies towards feeling hot or sweating, or tendency towards becoming a bit more irritable, angry. So that is some example about pitta-related body type. The third one, that is called kapha. And kapha actually is a combination of water and earth. Now, when we say water, you will see that water has got the quality of being soft, gentle, and flowing. Likewise, such people also, they are more adapting, they just go with the flow. But kapha also has earth, and earth is heavy. So that also then gives them the quality of being more patient and stable. So we are looking into such qualities. But what Ayurveda says is that you're not just one body type or one energy, you can be a combination of one, two, or all three put together.
I was going to ask you about that, because in sort of modern times where people are taking on Ayurvedic practices, and you can see Ayurvedic practitioners around quite a bit now online, they always tend to do the dosha test and what is it? Define your dosha.
Yeah, they say discover your dosha.
Yeah, exactly, within 30 seconds. And obviously you and I know there is so much more to defining that, and it's not absolute, and it's dynamic, and it depends on what's happening with that person at the time, and it could change, and there's just so much involved, isn't it? So when a client comes to you, for instance, is it the dosha that you look at first? What are the first few steps?
When you're talking about dosha, again, remember the term dosha in Ayurveda literally means a fault or a mistake. So there is a big difference between a body type and dosha. So when you're saying, they do all these questions when they're saying discover your dosha, that is actually wrong, because you can't discover a person's fault. Each individual is unique.
Oh, wow, okay.
So you're looking into that person's qualities, okay, fine, what are their hobbies, what are their likes, dislikes. I'm not necessarily looking for their negative qualities or faults. So that is one thing, as you said, you find all these dosha questionnaires online. But then again, now when we use the term dosha, through that it may also mean whatever illness or imbalance that they may have nowadays. So yes, that is what you're looking to assess, what that might be. But of course, when someone comes for a consultation, people come for many different reasons. It might just be to help, maintain health, or they might have some illness, disease, or let's say natural phases of life. So someone is looking to get pregnant, or during pregnancy or postnatal phase. So there's some healthy kind of happy times also when people come. But then throughout, one of the main things that we are always looking to do is find out a person's body type or constitution. Now, when we say body type or constitution, again, one thing that everyone should remember is that each person just doesn't have one body type. They have two different body constitutions. Meaning the first one is the one that they are born with. So we call it the basic body type. And the best way of looking into it is it's like your DNA imprint. It's your identity. Meaning, it'll always be with you and it won't change. But the other body type of constitution is for what we are nowadays. We believe that whatever that we are nowadays is a result of all the influences around us. It can be family, friends, work, travel, weather, things that are happening. And the best way of comparing your basic body type and your today's constitution, your basic body type is like a solid hard surface. It won't move, it won't change, it's there. It can be metal, it can be wooden, it can be steel. But your today's constitution is more like a layer of dust on the solid hard surface, and the aim is to wipe away that layer of dust.
So how do you define what the person's basic body type is? What do you do?
In simple words, we say that things that people love to do is a part of their basic body type. But then things that people end up doing or they have to do is the imbalance. That's an easy way of putting it across. But when people come to me, then the best way of finding out a person's basic body type is by checking their pulse. Because we believe that whenever people are giving answers or talking about things, they're talking about from the point of view that what they think they are.
Okay, so they're sort of in their mind as opposed to sort of talking from the heart. And I think this is something that we talk about as a culture, about, being in your head or your heart. This is what leading from your heart really means, right?
Yeah. But we say that, once it is only when you check the pulse, because the pulse does not lie. It's like, if the blood pressure is high, it will be high, even though I'm saying it's low, meaning it's two different ways of looking into it. So what I do is I ask them a lot of questions in the beginning, everything to do with their presenting symptoms, complaints. But then one thing that is different in Ayurveda compared to any other science is that in Ayurveda, we're also looking to discover their actual self, their unique constitution.
Oh, wow, okay.
Any other science, people always go saying, yes, I've got a lower back problem, I've got a headache, I've got insomnia. So all that they're looking to do is find out causes for that. But in Ayurveda, we're also asking questions like, okay, fine, so what are your hobbies? What kind of foods do you like to eat? So if you had some free times, what would you love to do? So we are assessing that person as a whole rather than just illnesses or diseases. So of course, we do ask a lot of questions, but then classically we do like pulse diagnosis, tongue diagnosis. So based on all this information put together, we get to know what their basic body type is or what their today's constitution is. Or in Ayurveda, through pulse, we also get to know about the different phases of life. So a lot that we get to know.
Okay, that's interesting that you were talking about the imbalances, learning about those, and in when people do sort of go to the doctor or something and they talk about lower back pain, it tends to be that the symptoms are being covered up. So there might be a heat patch given or some tablets to alleviate pain, discomfort, etc. And something that I use in my coaching practice when I'm speaking with a client is to get to the root of the problem. I'm not a counsellor, so I don't dwell there, but if we can identify where the root of an issue is, so like self-confidence issues, stress, the overachieving that people have in them, if we can find out where this all comes from, it's a lot easier then to have that as a reference point to move them forward. And this was sort of something that when we met, we were talking about and really connected, because Ayurveda goes to, and obviously, you explain it better than me, but it goes to the root, the source of the problem, the imbalance, if you like, and then looks to treat it that way. So it's not always obvious, the treatment process that's going to occur, but because you're in Ayurveda, am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. Absolutely, if you remember, then when we first met, I also gave an example that let's say if someone came with a headache, just because they come with a headache, I'm not just going to say, okay, fine. Even Ayurvedically saying, oh, yeah, go ahead, have ginger lemon tea or eat khichdi or whatever. We are actually once again looking into the quality of the headache, how the headache is, but again, cause. Some people may say, oh, yes, I get a headache when it is too windy, dry, cold. But others say, oh, no, I get migraines when it's really hot and humid. But others say when it is raining, wet and kind of damp, I get headaches. That means the cause is different. So based on that, then even the plan or the approach changes. So it's just not about giving an aspirin or, again, Ayurvedically, just not about saying ginger lemon tea to all the three.
Right.
Because if ginger is too heating, that means if someone with that, cause of being, like hot and damp headaches, it'll make it worse. So we're always going back to the cause.
This is more of like giving an example, but I've noticed that a lot of my clients, when they get their time of the month, they tend to, a certain age group tends to get headaches. That I don't get headaches yet, but I've recently started having migraines, and it tends to be during that time of the month. Now, obviously you're the expert, but I would have thought it's because there's extra heat in the body because of...
that's it. You see, when there is a cause, as I said earlier, when it is hot out there, you will feel hot on the inside. When it is cold out there, you will feel cold on the inside. So, of course, the heat may be generated from inside too, but ultimately we are looking on the outside. Okay. Because now when we're talking about environment on the outside, just not natural environment, but it can be work, it can be stress, it can be anything. It's even something, I know it's going on at the moment everywhere, where people are talking about the coronavirus and stuff like that. Even though we are not affected here, but back of our mind, we're still stressed. Right. It's like everyone is thinking, okay, fine, holidays are coming up. Do we travel? We don't travel. So all of that leads to that cause from inside, and you start thinking about so many different things. The heat starts increasing. Right. So that external cause will affect that internal cause, and that internal cause will lead to that symptom or problem.
Okay. So what do clients usually come to you for? Are they coming for specific reasons or general?
Yeah. So my kind of clientele, they're quite varied. I mean, like quite a lot, literally even from the point of view of age. I get newborn babies as clients until clients who are like 80, 85, 90, so there's a big kind of, age variation, but even in terms of presentation. So it might be any medical conditions, probably like, eczema or diabetes or under or overactive thyroid or, autoimmune conditions or as I said, happy times. So someone's looking to get pregnant, so they want to do like a cleanse or detox, so like preparing for the next phase or during pregnancy or postnatal phase. Or I get postnatal phase clientele, meaning mother and baby, where I'm showing the mother how to do an newborn Ayurvedic, hot oil baby massage. So the clientele is quite varied, but of course, predominantly, I do get clients with more, like medical conditions and illnesses.
So have they already gone to their doctors and now they're seeking additional support, or are they already supporters of Ayurveda and its principles?
It's actually a mix of both.
Okay.
Because a lot of people may have been to the doctors, they've tried everything, nothing has worked, then they say, I've heard that Ayurveda works. But on the other hand, because I've done a consultation for this one client and it has really worked, so they might go and talk about it to someone else. So this other person may have observed, let's say symptoms of IBS, so they may not go to the doctors first, but they'll come here saying, but I've heard that Ayurveda really helps. So it's a big kind of, it's a mix of everything. And one thing sometimes does also happen is that, of course, the client will come in the beginning, they'll come for a few follow-ups, then they completely disappear for 2 years, 3 years, but then they come back again after 2 years because something else has come up. So such times those clients usually say, no, I have not gone to the GP, but I've come to you because last time things really helped. I'm hoping it will help.
Yeah.
So there's a big mix of, like they might have either tried general, like allopathy medication, nothing has worked, or the other way around too.
But I mean, that's interesting that you say that they'll go away for a few years and then come back again, because that's sort of where this is where our link comes into play that we were sort of looking at, is that the coaching process prepares you for change. Because essentially when you're coming to an Ayurvedic doctor to talk about your ailments, etc., the plan, the prescription, if you like, that's given to you is going to inflict upon lifestyle changes. And some of those can be quite extreme if you're not used to, like, for us being vegetarian is very easy because we sort of grow up eating more vegetarian food than we do meat. But somebody who's always eaten meat and say part of your prescription was adjustments in the diet, it can be quite overwhelming and that then stresses them out. So then that sort of perpetuates the problem as well, right?
See, one thing that we do say in Ayurveda, that everything that you look out there is Ayurvedic. So if someone has been used to eating meat all their life, I would never, even if needed, I would never say you have to become vegetarian. Because in Ayurveda, we believe that if the body is used to something, if you suddenly stop, it goes into that state of chaos, it doesn't know what to do.
This is interesting, actually.
I think it is something like, in your coaching, I'm sure your thing is about, gradual change.
Yes.
So this is what we again follow in Ayurveda. So, but of course, even when that gradual change needs to take place, it needs to be, how can I say, well organized in a way. So it's not that, if I see that, yes, there's too much heat in the body and they shouldn't eat meat, so I'll start saying that, okay, fine, avoid red meat, avoid certain heating foods, and when they get used to that, then I will say, okay, fine, now you can start avoiding poultry and chicken. When they get used to that, then I might say, okay, fine, now you can stop fish. So it's that gradual change that they're looking into. So again, it's a different kind of coaching, but from a more Ayurvedic point of view, where like you are looking into that individual specifically.
So that's actually quite a good segue into food, because food plays a huge part in Ayurveda, doesn't it? And I know that I've seen some people that I follow, and they've recently done like khichdi detoxes, for like 5 days, 7 days. That's all they're eating. Now, growing up on khichdi is medicine food. It's when it's food that the way I know it is you're given khichdi when you're sick, when you're not feeling well, because it's comfortable for the stomach to process. So when I see people eating it day in, day out for a 5-day cleanse, I'm like, oh my God, like you're going to get sick of it. So there's two things here. One is what role does food play in Ayurveda? And then the second one, I think, after you've explained the seriousness of the role that food plays, I think then we'll go into sort of talking about some of these misconceptions, and because the misconceptions can actually end up harming you rather than doing the good that you think it's going to do.
In Ayurveda, we say that you are what you eat.
Okay.
Literally.
Okay.
And meaning, the best way of explaining that is like, let's say if you've been eating a lot of spicy food over a few days, weeks, and you automatically feel a bit irritable, a bit impatient. If you eat a lot of heavy cold foods, again, you feel a bit heavy, a bit slow, so you will see that whatever that you eat, your responses are accordingly. So for us, of course, we look into food not as food, but it is again more medicine.
Okay.
And having said that, in Ayurveda, there is again another saying that Ayurveda begins from your kitchen.
Okay.
Meaning anything that you see in your kitchen cabinet, be it spices or foods, vegetables, fruits, they all can be turned into medicine based on how you're looking to use it.
Okay.
So for us, food plays a very big role. Because one thing, of course, diverting a bit over here, you will see that nowadays, when we talk about fasting, people are thinking about food fasting. That is what we always think. Okay, fine, I'm going to fast. Oh, so the conception is, that means a person is going to be eating for those 2-3 days. Maybe drinking, fluids, water, whatever. Yeah. But interestingly, in Ayurveda and yoga, when we say fasting, it's not necessarily food. The moment we use the term fasting, we say it is withdrawing your 5 sensory functions from the outside desires. Oh. But then, because the age that we are in, we say we are in the age of darkness. It is believed that it is very difficult to control these sensory functions or desires. But what is the most easiest to control if we could? And that is what goes into the mouth, It's food. Okay. But then again, it's not really easy. It's quite difficult. Because in Ayurveda, again, there's a saying that, just the way the earth revolves around the sun, our own lives revolve around our digestive fires, or it is our hunger or appetite. Again, going into a bit of, our Vedic philosophy, you must have heard these big epics like, Ramayana and Mahabharata.
Yes,
of
course, yes.
And in that it has been written that there are 3 things in life a man or a woman will fight for or a war will begin. First of all, it's food, or the second is woman, and the third is sleep. Meaning, yes. But again, in that, again, we put food first, because without food, we can't live.
Right.
You will see that whenever, it's interesting, in today's day and age, the food is our first point of contact, no matter what. When we are happy, yes, let's celebrate, let's go eat food.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, I'm alone, I'm at home, I'm depressed, let's go eat food. I'm really stressed, I don't know what to do at work, I'm going to eat food. Oh, my child is eating food, I'm going to eat food, So ultimately, our point of contact, which is easiest, is food.
Why is that?
Because again, in Ayurveda, there is a saying that, we being human beings, our first point of contact when we are sad, depressed, or happy or anything is actually another human being. That is what it is. That means if I'm feeling really unhappy, I want to talk to someone. Because that is how you get that love. That concern back saying, don't worry, everything will be fine and everything. Yeah. But in our today's day and age, because our lives have become so solitary, we don't really live in those big families that we used to once upon a time. Or, you had your cousins, your uncles, aunts.
Or on the same street. So, something that I was talking to my husband about recently, because we had come into this year and we were like, but you know what, now it's time to live. Like, we've been working so hard, we're just doing. And yes, we still want to buy a new house. And yes, we want to move to Spain and we want to do this, we want to do that. But whilst we're doing that, we can still live, we can still enjoy our lives. And we set out, both of us, a goal for this year was like, our relationship is cool, we have a solid foundation, we love each other, we enjoy each other, we communicate, we're okay. Let's spend more of our free time, because we have very little of it, obviously, right? But let's spend more of our free time with the people that we enjoy, our friends that we grew up with, our cousins, our family. We're just not doing it because we all live so far away in so many different places. And by the time it's your day off, the last thing you want to do is travel for an hour and a half to go somewhere, and then children, and there's just so many things. But when we grew up, our friends were pretty much on the street or a couple of streets away. It's a very, very different world that we live in. You're right. Yeah.
So, of course, so going back to that point, if I don't find someone else to talk to, under any such circumstances, it is believed that what is the first point of contact that will give us that love, affection, and care, and that is food. You'll see that when you eat food, you feel more calm, more settled, no matter what food. It might be something sweet, it might be crisp, doesn't matter. It is satisfying that desire in here. And that's the reason why, you will see that, of course, we're talking about food, why food is so important. It's like if you don't get anything else or anyone else to talk to, your first point of contact for love is food. And having said that, again in Ayurveda we do say 2 things you never do alone or by yourself is eat alone or have alcohol alone. 2 things never by yourself, because when you're with someone else, even when you're eating, if you've got something going through your mind, you'll talk about it.
Yes.
Same thing with alcohol. So in fact, that is a rule that we follow at home anyways. We don't eat alone, we don't drink alcohol alone. But that is how important, again, food is for us. Because our lives revolve around it. It's not the other way around. Sometimes that is how it should be, where we say, yes, I eat because I need that bit of food to sustain energy. Nowadays it's the other way around.
Okay.
We are living to eat.
So you've sort of adapted it then, I guess, Ayurvedically in your practice to the way we consume food now is different to that sort of medicinal.
Of course, even now in my practice and when I'm teaching, I still go back to the kind of foundation knowledge of Ayurveda. Food is medicine. So even when students are there and when they are sitting there alone eating, I tell them, no, you can't be sitting here. You need to go out, talk to your friends, or you can't be looking into your phone or whatever, because in that way you're becoming more solitary.
Okay.
More within yourself.
Yes.
So rather than getting that stress out, you are actually internalizing it. So it doesn't help.
Okay.
But food, no matter what type of food, but how you eat it and what circumstances you eat it is very important.
Okay, so that affects how it goes into your body and what it does inside you, and the, I guess, what if you are eating solitary, I'm going to assume that it would cause more stress within you.
It will. Or you start thinking more.
Right.
And that thinking process, let's say I'm eating food by myself and something small like, I didn't pay those 2 bills.
Oh, yes.
And it's gone past that last date of payment, and I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I need to pay. And because of that heat, if you want to call it, rises up in the nervous system. But then that affects the endocrine system, where it becomes overactive.
Oh gosh.
So then that affects the digestive system, and then more production of, let's say, hydrochloric acid or enzymes where it should not be. Like things need to start regulating. And that is how then you will see that when people eat under stressful conditions, then they tendencies mostly towards high blood pressure or gastric ulcers, dural ulcers, even high cholesterol, because body gets confused. It's time to digest, be calm, but there's so much kind of pressure or stress on the liver, on the gallbladder, then high cholesterol. It's like it starts affecting so many different things.
It's fascinating. I look forward to your book, which you can plug at the end of the show, which will explain a lot of this. So thank you for that explanation. I think that really makes a lot of sense with regards to food and how Ayurveda perceives food and the importance of it, and how we're obviously using it today is very different to the way we, I guess, in inverted commas, should be using it. But just moving forward a little bit, back to some more preconceptions. So in Ayurvedic terms, should you be vegetarian? Should you be vegan? Should you not eat meat? Should you drink alcohol? I think there is a preconception that you should be vegan and that you shouldn't drink alcohol, and like literally all fun in your life must go. And I guess that almost puts people off from seeking out the practice. Yeah.
First of all, both, not just in Ayurveda, but even in yoga, we do not have the principle of veganism.
Right.
And maybe there are many people out there listening for what I say, but everyone knows that I'll say exactly what Ayurveda talks about.
Yeah.
Of course, in Ayurveda, we do talk about being vegetarian. I'm not saying no to that, but vegan, definitely not.
So what does being vegetarian mean?
Vegetarian is literally, eating vegetables or whatever, but along with that, some milk or dairy. Meaning you're not cutting out dairy out from your food, because for us in Ayurveda, ghee, clarified butter is very important in terms of cleansing, detox, but even milk is quite nourishing, because ultimately it helps to nourish the bones, the nerves, hair, nails, skin. And you will see that I'm not saying that a person should not be vegan, but never suddenly turn into it. Because you're talking about what are the principles in Ayurveda.
Yes.
First of all, when it comes to food, even when it comes to meat, in Ayurveda, we don't look at meat as food, but we look at meat as medicine.
Oh,
very important.
Okay. So how does that work?
It's from the point, let's say, meaning you don't eat meat just because you like the taste. Oh yes, I want to have 3 eggs today, 4 eggs tomorrow. It's not out of your desire. You're eating meat because the body needs it. So let's say, children, they will need meat because they're growing. They need that kind of, protein metabolism in the body. Or probably, maybe post-operative phase, or people going through illnesses, or older people, where the body really needs it.
And that protein cannot be found in plant food?
No, it's not that it can't be found. So based on that, then I was going to be talking about my next thing. See, Ayurveda looks into geography, your local living conditions.
Yeah.
And you will see that now, of course, India as a country predominantly is vegetarian. And it's not necessarily for religion or customs or tradition, but it is the weather out there.
Right.
It is so hot and humid over there, we can't eat meat every day, unlike where people can do it over here. So that means, yes, I remember when I was growing up, I come from a meat-eating background. And I used to say, yes, I'm a non-vegetarian, but all that we had was lamb once every 2 weeks or chicken once every 2 weeks. So literally, like every 14 days, not every day. But even with that, we said, I eat meat.
So if it's so as you say, the climate in the country, like in India, you can't eat meat. What happens inside your body if you eat meat in a hot country?
See what happens, because it is so hot and humid over there, the heat inside the body, there's already excess heat in the body. If I were to continue eating meat in India, every day I'll start suffering from skin conditions, boils, ulcers, high blood pressure, certain types of diabetes or even gastric ulcers. So that is what meat does, because meat is heating.
Okay.
But on the other hand, in colder countries, first of all, you don't see a lot of sun. Sun is only 3-4 months a year, maybe even 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
That means we can't really grow a lot of vegetables out here. That's not possible. But the other thing also to remember is it's so cold out here. We need that first-class protein from animals to help sustain the body.
Okay.
So it's that way and hence you will see that colder countries, they eat more meat. In hot and humid countries, they don't. So even when you look into India itself, all the South Indian states, they are vegetarian.
Right.
All the North Indian states, be it Punjab, a bit of Rajasthan, Kashmir, all of those, they eat meat because it's cold.
Okay,
they need that sustenance through meat.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that a lot of people listening will sort of resonate with that. Even just in a very, very basic example, when you go on holiday, and we tend to go to warm places, don't we? We don't actually eat as much as we would normally eat at home, do we? And we're quite surprised that we can sustain ourselves on maybe 2 light salads in the day, whereas at home we'd be eating, 3 meals plus 3 snacks and, something just before bed. It's fascinating.
So, so when you, so going from there to understand, so don't we get, vegetarian source proteins? Yes, we do. Through lentils and dal and everything, but that is more for the hot and humid countries.
Right.
But then coming back to the thing about can a person become vegetarian or become vegan? That is where I tell everyone, now that depends on your ancestral DNA memory in your body.
Oh, this is interesting.
Meaning, let's say I come from India, but I'm a meat-eating person once every 2 weeks. That means somewhere in my DNA code, it has been embedded. Oh, yes, this individual or this clan or this, where I come from, there is some meat every 2 weeks. And because the body is so used to it, the memory is in there. If I were to suddenly stop eating meat or even become vegan, the body gets confused because it does not know, but that is what the memory says in the DNA.
And what does that look like? What does that confusion look like to the body?
Then the body starts reacting. For example, it might show up in the physical changes where, the body becomes weak. There may be tremors, there may be insomnia, depending upon, what you've stopped eating or you haven't eaten. It's not just for what it is now. I also tell everyone, the mistake everyone is doing nowadays in turning vegan or suddenly turning vegan or vegetarian is, they're just thinking about themselves today.
Right.
So let's say I've been eating meat, let's say every 2-3 days, because that is what my family has done. Because I come from, Finland, Sweden, some very cold country. But then from there, if I suddenly start eating only vegetarian food every day, yes. For the first 2-3 years, I want to tell the whole world, yes, I feel great, I feel light, I feel good. But they don't understand that the effect is not just for those 2-3 years or today. Whatever I'm doing now will actually affect me in 10 or 15 years' time.
Okay.
That means I might not see changes now, but in 5-6 years, yes, my hair will start falling because, there's not enough, protein or that kind of calcium, let's say through milk, or my bones will become weak. And then I'll start wondering, but why am I feeling so weak? I eat a healthy diet.
Yes.
See, healthy diet depends on your geographical background.
Right.
Not just because they say that, yes, in India you can have mangoes in March, April, May. That means mangoes in March, April, May will be good here too, because, it's a different geography.
Yes.
So same thing with the body and eating meat.
So that's interesting that you say that about when you make those very drastic lifestyle food diet changes, and then you could see the negative effects or the harmful effects of it later down the line. But the agenda here at the moment with those who are suddenly becoming vegan is that they will take the supplements instead. So they'll take, they'll get their multivitamins or their specific vitamins that they need for this. And what are your views on supplements?
See, nothing wrong with supplements if the body really needs them. But again, the moment you start talking about supplements, the way I put it across is that the internal system becomes lazy. For example,
I see. Okay.
Meaning when I'm eating, let's say, spinach, spinach has got natural iron in it. So if I were to eat natural spinach, or let's say even red meat, it has got natural iron in it. So I'm giving both examples, a vegetarian and a meat related. Yeah. But the way it gets digested in the gut or the body starts working towards, getting that food out. It's not that, oh yes, I've taken that pure iron straight down. The body says, I don't need to do anything because that, iron is there. I'm just going to absorb it.
Okay.
That means that internal, if you want to call it tissue laziness, starts setting in.
Yeah.
So that means at times when they were to actually eat food with those supplements in it, then the body might say, oh, but what do I do with it?
Yeah.
Because it has lost the memory.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how to put it. See,
I totally hear you. Yeah.
Our bodies are made the way they are for a reason.
Yes.
I'm not saying no to supplements, but it is only when the body really, really needs it, whereby, let's say, someone is so weak that the person does not have enough energy even to digest food. Where there's, okay, fine, we need quick change. Yeah. It is needed. But if you're healthy, if you're strong, and when I say healthy, you don't even have to be completely healthy, normal, average healthy. Let the body work.
Yes.
Because if the body becomes lazy, that means the nervous system becomes lazy. That means it is leading to that aging process.
So it's another moment that we're connecting on, because my son, he was born premature. He was born at 30 weeks, so it was sort of 7 months. And when he was born, he spent his first 2 months of life in hospital, and that was all very stressful. And he had to be given vitamins when he left the hospital, right? So he had to take oral vitamins, and that was fine. He was only having milk, and unfortunately I wasn't producing enough milk myself, so he had to have the synthetic milk product. And as soon as we were able to give him animal milk, I chose to give him goat's milk as opposed to cow's milk. I sort of went to my roots, and I don't know where it came from, but as I was doing the research, it was goat's milk was showing up as the closest to human milk. And because I wasn't able to do it, for me, it was very important to give him the best possible start I could. And that's what he drank and still drinks today. He loves his milk. He's very Indian in that sense. He's a mixed race child, but he's very Indian. He likes his dud in the morning and dud in the evening. But he has always had, since then, when he stopped taking those vitamins, I pushed the agenda of food as fuel, and you're going to get your nutrients from food. And he has a very clean diet. We don't say no to anything. When he's ready to try something that's processed or whatever, and he's curious, he asks me, Mummy, can I have a biscuit? What's Daddy eating? Can I have a biscuit? Then we give it to him, but we don't sort of, here's a bag of sweets, Micah, eat it. We've never been those parents. And we've noticed that he will tell us what deficiency he's got in his body based on what he wants to eat. So he might come to me in the day and he'll say, Mummy, I want a snack. And I'm like, sure, what would you like? And he'll think about it and he'll say, I want grapes, or he'll say, I want cheese, or he's very specific, or raisins or whatever. And, and I look at him and I can see, okay, yes, he's been at mum's, so he's eaten a lot of dal and lentils and things. So he probably wants something a little bit lighter. So it's interesting to see how, because he's a new human being, to see it actually come to life. And I see how food affects him. So recently, the point of this story, his nails were coming off, and there was it was very odd, very random, and we I sort of straight away went to holistic research. I went into the Ayurvedic side and it was saying iron was the main factor. I considered his diet and I thought, actually, yes, iron could be, because the most iron he's getting is from spinach and there's not much in spinach. And you would have to give him a lot of spinach to get enough of the iron to help him with that. So then I thought, okay, what else can I give him? And I went to beef. I thought, okay, a quick shot of beef almost, because it's not a regular food I give him. Or lamb, those aren't regular foods. And so I just added in a meal a week for the past month that was beef or lamb, and it's had the effect. And because his body is that's like you say, the DNA, the imprint. His body has gone, yes, that's where I get my nutrients from food. So I've got it now. I've got the iron that was missing. I fixed your nails. All is right in the world. And I literally have seen this in the last 4 weeks happen. It's fascinating. It must be for you as well, right? When you see it with clients.
Yeah, that small tweak where people are expecting me to tell them, no, yes, you have to become vegetarian or you have to do this. And I tell them, actually, no, not just about being vegetarian. Even when it comes to alcohol, I tell them, you don't have to stop it. But, you might need to make a bit of a tweak, a change in terms of what type of alcohol you drink. And likewise, you're still enjoying life. Yeah. And yet you're seeing that improvement in your health. So in Ayurveda, we do not have a complete yes or no situation, meaning we're always doing things based on that individual's lifestyle or, as I say, their background, their ethnicity, and accordingly, we're kind of putting a plan together.
That's so fascinating.
Going back to, all these misconceptions, if you want to call it, of course, in Ayurveda, meat for us is medicine. Yes, you can be vegetarian or even vegan if they want to, but it has to be a very slow process. Right. And the way I tell people about this is, yes, if you want to you can't from eating meat to suddenly turn vegan. You need to have that, that very kind of gradual crossover to becoming first vegetarian and then vegan. Right. And even with that, I tell them, if you're eating meat every day, then make sure that once a week, one day is a no meat day. So let the body get used to it. Yeah. Then you change to a day a week no meat day, then 3 days, 4 days, and then slowly you're changing. Yeah. So it's a bit more informed. Yeah. So it's gradual. The body is getting used to it, but suddenly from 100 to 0, body can't take it. Yeah. So in Ayurveda, everything is Ayurvedic. Be it meat, be it lamb, be it alcohol, be it even being vegan, nothing wrong with it, because I'm sure you must have seen that so many times when we cook Indian food at home, you might cook dal, rice, chapatis, and maybe a vegetarian stir-fry. Yeah. But there is no ghee, there's nothing in it. Yes. That means in Ayurveda, yes, you can have vegan days, but Ayurveda is not vegan science.
Fabulous. This is really good. I mean, oh my God, we could talk for so long on this. The whole topic is just so, obviously it's massive, isn't it? I think just because of time, let's move on to my favorite topic in this whole genre is yoga. What is yoga? What is really yoga?
See, just like Ayurveda, yoga is once again a way of life. Right. The way we generally put it across, of course. When people talk about yoga, they're thinking about yoga positions and breathing. That is the thing that comes to our mind. But when we talk about it, comparing it to Ayurveda, we say Ayurveda is for the body and yoga is for the mind. So that is how we look into it. That means through Ayurvedic principles, you're bringing changes in the physical side. Physical side can be even maybe vision, eyes, whatever. Yeah. But from yoga, you're literally bringing change in your attitude, your mind, and your outlook towards everything. But then again, in Ayurveda, the way we look into, or in yoga, we say that just suddenly bringing a change in the mind is not possible. Right. Let's say if I say, yes, I want to lose weight over the next 10 days, mind will say, oh yeah, let's try and do it. But it is not always possible because you need that determination. And hence what yoga has put together is, so that you can bring changes in the mind, you need to start bringing changes in the body. And that's the reason why you will see that whenever we talk about yoga practice, we always start with, physical practice like positions, like sun salutations or warrior pose and everything. Because yoga says that until and unless you cannot control or discipline your physical body, you cannot discipline or, control your breathing. So you will see that it is only after physical practice we do breathing exercises. Oh, wow. So once you've done the physical activity, then breathing, because then it becomes easy to control your breath.
This is really interesting. I mean, we could talk for hours on this. I have personal bugbears, as you know, and I'm very vocal and opinionated about it, but it's because there's a disconnect for me when I see these practices which have all come from Ayurveda, from yoga. For me, when I see it, I'm like, you can't use it in a silo. So I'm not against you taking up any of these practices that come from the philosophies, so like breath work, meditation, yoga, etc. I'm not against that. But if you can't connect the dots as to why breath work helps and how it helps, and at what point in your self-development journey breath work is going to help, then you're never really going to see the effects of it. You'll see it for that hour that you're there doing the class, but that's it, because you don't know how to apply it to your personal life, which is obviously going to be different to the other 6 people in the class with you. Same with yoga. Like when people go to this 1-hour class, 90-minute class, and they feel really satisfied. Oh, I did a headstand and things like that very surface level stuff. It's like, but then how are you now taking that into your everyday? Because that is what you're supposed to be gaining from that class. It doesn't mean I go to yoga, therefore I am. There is obviously...
Yeah, absolutely. That's correct. So it's, and hence, it's not, as you said, not just doing that 1 hour of practice, but how have you taken anything that you've learned from that 1 hour and you've applied it into your next 6 days till you come back for the next class. So that is also one thing. And that is where we say, unless you can't control your body, you can't control your breath. And it is believed that if you can't discipline your breath, you cannot control your thoughts.
Oh, wow.
So you're taking it one level further, and that is where meditation comes.
Okay.
So first body, controlling the body, disciplining the body, then disciplining the breath, and then disciplining the mind, because it is believed that our expressions through the 5 sensory functions. But where do those expressions come from? Comes from the mind, which is in there. It's thinking. So when I'm happy, I'm smiling. When I'm really sad, I'm crying. When I'm really irritated, I'm yelling. That means it is the mind that is controlling those thoughts, then ultimately is controlling your outlook towards what is happening around you.
This is, again, super interesting, talking about mental health.
Yeah.
So I had depression not a few years ago now, but a while ago now. And it was something that was said to me a lot about getting outside, physically, being physically in a different place and things like that. And as you're speaking, I was just hearing, because there's a lot of memes and things on social media. I saw a recent one saying is about mental health, saying that, you say to me that I should go outside when I'm not feeling good, but it's not as simple as that. And it's like, well, it's not as simple as that. But you can see where the link is, because I think a lot of information we consume in the West is very in a silo. There's no link to it. There's no... to find the scientific backup as to why that is the case is very lacking, and therefore people don't do things informed, and then they can't sustain it, and then yes, it doesn't work. But like you're saying there, if it's body first, then breath, then mind, if somebody is depressed, you have to physically control your physical body first before you can get to the mind. So the mind is almost the last, as you're saying, is the last place to actually get the therapy that it needs, because you can't control.
Yeah. See, of course, on one hand, it is because you're trying to control the mind, but we can't easily do the mind. So what is the best, easiest approach? Through the body. Because you'll see that I might still be depressed or unhappier, but if someone says, no, just walk up and down the stairs 20 times, I can easily do it. But if someone says, no, just smile 20 times, I can't.
Right.
Meaning, physically, we are able to bring those changes, then which will ultimately affect the mind.
And does that have something to do with hormones as well?
Everything.
Okay.
See, when we say physical activity,
yes,
I know it's literally going back whole circle.
Yes.
So even when I have to sit here saying, okay, fine, I need to move, but where is that thought coming from? Still coming from the mind. It's like you're going that full circle.
Yes.
Even though you don't realize, you're still starting that first trigger point in the mind saying, I need to move.
So this is interesting, as somebody who has fluctuated with weight a lot. So this is where you have to lead from your heart almost to want to physically move so that you can lose weight. This is a very simplistic example I'm giving, but does that sound like how it would sort of work? Because I know that when you're overweight, you do struggle with a lot of this. Oh, I can do this. Yes, I can plan my meals and I can do that. And then I'll exercise on this day at this time and I'll do that. Oh, I do like swimming as well. So I might just add swimming. And we do all this. And like you say, it's all in the mind. But come the day to do it, Well, the motivation, the physical. And it's funny because in my practice, and this is something that I do a lot for myself, is every movement counts. And by just that little phrase, I'll do the extra walk. I'll walk that little bit extra. And I'm literally like, it's extra steps, like counting on my Fitbit. And just that little bit gets me to my 10,000 steps a day, which is meaning that I'm not gaining any weight. And that was important for me this year, not to gain weight. I want to lose it, but I know that there's a lot more. I have to get out of my head at the moment for that. But by doing that very simple thing, like you say, just physically doing it, it's starting the process. So I make more conscious decisions when it comes to, let's go out for dinner. And then it's like, okay, well, we could do afternoon tea. But then I think, no, afternoon tea is too much food, actually. So let's go for dinner. And I can have more control then of what I'm consuming. So fascinating.
So coming back to it, in Ayurveda and, of course, in yoga, for us, movement is very important. Air movement, literally.
Okay.
So even in yoga, now when we say air movement, it's just not physical movement or breath movement, but how you control your thought movement process. Because when you're thinking, there's movement in the mind. So ultimately, be it Ayurveda, yoga, it is healthy physical, mental, emotional movement or activity. Now, one thing, of course, you did ask, so what is yoga? Of course, yoga is all about controlling the mind. But as I also said, yoga is also your attitude. So more than anything else, it is your outlook, your attitude towards things. For example, yes, people say, yes, I'm a yoga teacher. I practice yoga. I wake up 5:30 in the morning. I do my physical practice. Yes, I'm vegan. I'm vegetarian. I might do this. I might do that and all of that. But then I remember my professor, my teacher in India, he said, a person may wake up at 5:30 in the morning, do their physical practice. They might not eat onions or garlic, or they may be in headstand for 30 minutes and everything. But ultimately, when that person goes to the office and because something is going wrong, if they start yelling and shouting at someone else, everything else is not yoga.
Wow.
Meaning, it's not for what you do, saying I'm in that meditation pose or sun salutation. All of that is it does not matter at all. If when it is really needed, how did you react in that situation?
Wow, I'm so glad.
That is yoga.
I'm so glad you've just backed up, because obviously when I'm talking, I sound very opinionated, and I don't mean to be, but I'm very much, just be informed about the things that you do. It's a form of respect to an ancient practice that isn't from your heritage and things like that. I think that's where I get a bit of my bugbear. I don't have a problem with anybody embracing these therapies, but do them with some information, understand what it means to be yogic, really. When you see people calling themselves yogis and stuff, it's like, well, darling, you don't live the yogic philosophy. You can't call yourself a yogi,
Just like yourself, even I'm very opinionated, and all my students know it. And in fact, the other day I was reading something, and from a few weeks ago, several months ago, a few kind of information put together. I read online where people say they are Ayurveda experts, yogi experts, or whatever. Then when you read their articles, I'm sorry, this is my opinion. Now you will see. They have no idea what a faulty food combination is in Ayurveda,
right? Or
be it in yoga when you're saying do nasal wash, what it really is.
Yes.
So again, going back to your point, like if you are looking to follow, then yes, follow it and hence I call myself an Ayurveda or yoga enthusiast. I know, I teach, I talk, I do consultations, but I can't call myself as an expert, myself. I know many people say, no, Dr. Deepa, yes, you're the expert. And I say, no, I'm still learning because every day I'm learning something new.
Yes.
But on the contrary, I see all of these people out there putting themselves as experts.
And that in itself falls into yogic philosophy, doesn't it? That you are always learning, that you are never complete. So I was having a little chat with somebody yesterday, a very young person, and she was like, I don't know my identity. I need my identity. And I said, but you are you. And she's like, yes, but I need to put myself in a box. And it's like, no, you're 23. You need to live. You don't know who you are. You're never really going to know who you are, and until the end of time, because that's not what life is about. And you're always going to change. Life is dynamic. As things happen to you, as you live through experiences, your person is going to change, and it's up to you how you want to change, of course. But trying to desperately define who she is, and my heart was breaking for her because I was like, oh darling, don't spend time on this, like you're never going to get that answer, none of us are going to get that answer. Just embrace life as a continuous learning process. Everything that happens to you, everything you experience, everything you do, win, fail, whatever, grieve, is all a learning opportunity. And that's who you are. You are somebody who is always learning, and it does it.
Absolutely, no, that is correct.
Wrong.
Yeah, so as you said, either putting themselves in boxes or calling themselves certain names, or even going back to the whole thing about yoga experts.
Yes.
The moment even they use that term, there is ego, and it is the exact opposite of what yoga is. In yoga, we say when you start practicing yoga, you have to let go of your ego, no attachment, you're detaching yourself to everything. But on the contrary, if you start putting such terms, then as you say, your whole journey of learning, you're not there yet. Meaning the moment you start putting yourself up there, you're not really following yoga, because you're saying, yes, I've studied, yes, I've gone to that point, but still I'm done here because I still need to achieve more. And same thing about when people say they have this need to put them into a box, it's again an ego, it's that ego related thing. Because the moment we say identity, in yoga we use this one term called ahankar, ahankar. Over there, aham meaning I and kara meaning am. So it's that I am feeling. That natural I am feeling is very essential for our survival.
Right.
Then beyond that, it turns into that, cultivated ego, which is arrogance. And that is where sometimes it happens, where people say they want to be put themselves into certain boxes, or that quality of identity. Why the identity? Because they need their ego to be up there,
right,
to have that thing. So
fascinating. Again, another topic we could talk about forever. The other last thing I wanted to ask you, turmeric lattes. Tell me about them, because this is how we actually connected, wasn't it? There was a post on social media that you put, and I have been waxing lyrical about turmeric lattes, like to anyone and everyone who will listen to me, because I'm like, this is this is like Benylin. It's like literally drinking a bottle of Benylin, and if you drink it every day, it's not actually going to have the effect. And like a lot of things, I'll say something and I like to back it up. So now this time you are my backup for this. Explain the whole. Obviously, whenever there's a capitalist opportunity for a trend and a fad, it's going to happen. We know that. So
whenever there's a trend or fad, when it happens, and those other people out there, if they talk about, let's say now, turmeric lattes. I understand, they're doing it because they want to be on this trend, saying, oh yes, I'm having this turmeric latte, it's okay. But when I see all these, now I'm going to laugh about it, Ayurvedic experts putting it up there and saying turmeric latte, then I think, no, but have you really studied? Do you really know what Ayurveda is when it comes to such things? Of course, we actually don't have any latte system or science in Ayurveda. Yes, we have turmeric milk, where you just literally heat up, maybe boil, of course, some milk, then put a bit of turmeric, maybe a bit of ghee or, other things in it, but then maybe have it maybe in the evening or in the morning. First of all, only if you think you're going to be coming down with a flu or fever, or, you're going to be falling ill, probably for that. Or then on the other hand is with milk, turmeric and ghee is for children or pregnant women if they think they're going to be a bit constipated, so that is, as you say, it's a medicine, it's literally a therapy. Something similar to khichdi, as you said, we eat khichdi only when that one day of fasting or when you're not well, because these are the things that are then giving that energy to the body, saying, I know you need to rest, so I'm just going to give you a bit of this extra nourishment so that when you get better, you don't need to have it anymore. And coming back to lattes, what is a latte? It is frothed milk. Meaning that is what they're doing, isn't it?
And then frothy milk. When it's frothy milk, it changes the constitution as it goes into your body. See,
for us, milk is vata or dryness reducing, so it is warming, it is nourishing, it's lubricating. But along with that, when you're taking in that froth, which is air, that means you're actually bringing vata or air out of balance. It's like when you're looking both ways. So you just have hot milk with turmeric. I will be, yes, that is Ayurvedic, but as you say, don't try to modernize Ayurveda by using these terms, the way they're trying to do. Not that Ayurveda cannot be modern.
Yes.
but certain things have to be, respected and put where they are.
Yeah, otherwise they're not going to work. If they don't follow the teachings, they're not actually going to work.
Yeah.
Like we say, it's you can go to yoga class, but if you don't follow the principles of yoga philosophy, then the class is only going to do what it does for 60 minutes. It's not going to do anything more to your life. You're training your brain to think it is, but really it's not actually having the effect it would have, or what you're hoping for it to have. Okay, I think we'll leave it there, because there's a whole other show, and if you want more, you can join our workshop on the 18th of April. And what I'd like you to perhaps share with the listeners, I think, because none of us are perfect. I think that's fair to say that none of us are perfect. Like you say, you don't feel comfortable to call yourself an expert yet, whereas I'm very comfortable to call you an expert. But you're an expert compared to me, for instance, in that, and I understand you're humbling there. So what do you do in your life? Maybe top three things that you do every single day that keeps you balanced, happy, whatever it is to you that you need in your day to keep you going.
First of all, food.
Food, okay.
Yeah. See, based on my constitution and the way I am, I eat only once a day.
Okay.
Around 5 or 6 in the evening, because I know that is the time that suits me best, and even for my constitution. If I were to have breakfast and then lunch and then dinner, I know that would bring me completely out of balance. So even when I eat once a day, not because I don't starve for the rest of the day. I genuinely am not hungry. So what Ayurveda says is eat only when you really feel hungry, and that hunger you need to feel in the stomach, not in your mouth or on your tongue, where when someone starts talking about food, you feel, I'm hungry.
Yes.
That is false hunger. True hunger comes from the stomach. Literally,
you actually feel it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that is one thing that I do. I eat once a day, because I know that is more than enough for me. And then that also helps me with my metabolic processes, my sleep, everything. So that is one thing. The other thing that I will definitely do every day is take some Ayurvedic herbs, like, some herbs that help me, like Triphala or turmeric, brahmi. There's like 2-3 herbs that I take every day. That is the second important thing. I do a lot of other things, but I'm trying to see, things from a more everyday basis, just not the physical side, but the mind side is also important. And hence, from that point of view, I make sure that I spend some time with my son. Because he's 14 years old now.
Yeah.
But as and when I can, ever since I was a child, every day 1 or 2 hours. Now we've come to that point where he's 14 years old. He's a teenager, but we are still in the living room. And, he might be on his laptop doing his work, but I'm on my laptop on my side. But there's some television going on. And I remember my son Rohan saying the other day that, I know we really don't talk for that hour, but for me, this is like a bonding time. That feeling of having someone around.
It's the having someone around.
And it's that happiness that you get out of it. Of course, that is what I do nowadays with him.
Yes.
But I know things keep changing. Sometimes we might spend an hour, 2 hours just talking about something, or he might want to come and help me in cooking. So it's that spending time with someone. Over here, it's my son, because when I go back home, that's the kind of time I get with him. So those are the 3 main things that I would say that really, it's like bringing back that balance, be it physically, emotionally, mentally. These are the 3 things.
I think that's a beautiful way to end the show, because we started with the connection and relationships from the start, and obviously we've ended with your son. I think that's beautiful. Dr. Deepa, thank you so much for being on the show.
And
really
thank you for having me here on the show too. And thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Self-Care 101 podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you would subscribe and review so that other people like you can find the show. For more tips and tricks, you can follow me on the socials at Frankly Coaching, or visit my website to find out more about my coaching programs and how to work with me at franklycoaching.com.